But I think you talk about the Yankees pitching, which has been great this season. And I think pitching all over the league has been great, which kind of moves us into our next headline, which is, the idea of doctored balls and foreign substances and the whole investigation and to how maybe it contributes to the success of pitching this year. So earlier this week, evidence was presented at an owners meeting saying that ball doctoring was, and I quote, very prevalent in Major League Baseball. And if this is proven to be true, then it would make sense why this is the lowest batting average ever league wide and the highest strikeout rate ever league wide. So, put two and two together, that actually might make sense. And another thing that happened on June 2nd, three minor league pitchers were suspended for 10 games after being caught with illegal substances. So I guess, gents, what are your thoughts on this? And do you think the problem is as widespread as the league thinks?
Yeah, like I think that I read the Sports Illustrated article that came out on it, and I just thought that I feel like it's always been I feel like a rumbling over the last few years, especially with like guys like Trevor Bauer and Garrett Cole. I think those are the two guys that like everyone's like, oh, they're definitely using it because everyone's looking at their spin rates. And like I think Trevor Bauer, he was like, I couldn't even get like he's like a pitching lab or whatever. I mean, that's like the biggest Trevor Bauer thing ever. But he has like this, and he said he couldn't get the spin rate only if you use like a foreign substance. And I remember in the offseason, like when the Mets were going after him, he said that he was gonna like there was this rumor that he was going to come out publicly with it. Like this is like he was going to make it so blatant that he would have to be called on it. So Rob Manfred looks bad because him and Rob Manfred go back and forth. And I think now it's probably really widespread. And like I think a lot of guys like their spin rates are going like astronomically up just over the last year or two. And unless everyone has the same pitching coach that's telling them to this is what you do to get your spin rate up, I think the only possible thing would be to probably doctor the balls, like whatever that you stick them or whatever. Like, I mean, Darvish, I was looking at it, like his spin rate, like throughout his career, it was just like stagnant. It was like a straight line. And then over the last 2 years, it just rocketed up. Like that is, a little sketchy. And then if this is true, I think that the teams aren't going to call each other on it. Like, I think that's the thing. Like teams haven't called each other on it. I don't think they probably ever will, but the umpires have to. And, MLB is going to have to tell these umpires to be, you just have to watch out for this type of stuff. And, basically throw guys out of games, whatever it may be. And I don't know, it seems like a very, sticky situation, no pun intended, for the MLB.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Andrew, I think that, the managers aren't going to call it out because all their own guys
exactly.
are doing it. I mean, I think, did Bauer say, like, I don't remember what the percent was. It was like a couple years ago. He said like, it was like 75 or like 85% of the pitchers in the league are using foreign substance, which how he would know that number. I mean, Trevor Bauer is crazy, so maybe I don't know. But also, like Josh Donaldson claims to have like videotapes of all the guys using it, which I mean, who knows if that's true. But I do think it's very prevalent in the league. But I just think the managers don't want to call out other pitchers because they don't want their own guys to get called. I mean, like you mentioned, Darvish the other night, clear as day. I'm on Twitter. They're posting the video of the zoomed in. You can see literally he's swiping a little something out of the glove, rubbing the ball. Like it's so obvious that he's doing it. And then after the game, they asked Rojas, like, hey, did you see it? Like, what do you think? And even if he didn't see it on the field, there is no way that someone up high said, hey, Luis, like he's using the substance. And the only reason I could think that he didn't say anything was because, like a guy like Seth Lugo, they always talk about his spin rate. I mean, how does he have a spin rate that crazy high? I mean, I love the guy. I don't want to insinuate anything, but Taijuan Walker's having suddenly an amazing year, amazing, half from last year. Is he doing it? I don't know. I don't think so. But the only thing I can think of is that the guy like Familia, who struggled with control forever, is he using something? Like the only reason I can think that Rojas is not and other managers are not saying anything is because they don't want their own guys getting caught. I mean, and Garrett Cole, we mentioned Garrett Cole, his spin rate always talked up. Thursday, the announcement came out on Thursday. That evening, Cole had the worst start of his season, and it wasn't even close. And also, I heard on they mentioned on WFAN during one of the shows that his spin rate was the lowest it had been in his career. And don't you find that a little, fishy? Like his spin rate's up, and they're like, "Hey, stop using substances," and all of a sudden it's really down. Like that's really weird to me.
Yeah, and I agree with both of you guys. I think Mike brings up a great point because it really is a double-edged sword, especially if you're a manager, because your own guys are using it. They're throwing no hitters. I mean, you look at this year, you've had 5 or 6 this season. So your pitchers are playing extremely well, but your hitters aren't. So what are you going to stop? Are you going to call out your pitchers and then your pitchers aren't as good? It's like you kind of just let it go at a certain point. It's a really difficult situation. And I think I'm curious how this league investigation will go, if they are going to actually call people out, if they're going to, like you talked about, it looked like when Darvish was pitching, was it Friday night, Thursday night against the Mets? It looked like there was something in his glove. You never know. So I'm curious to see what happens, because this season has been very unorthodox when it comes to pitching and the success that pitchers have been having. I mean, I think, the ERAs are as low as they've ever been. And I just want to see if this is the reason why.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Andrew.
Okay. Yeah. I just think that, I think this has been obviously the lowest lowest batting average ever. And I think it's probably a combination of these sticky substances. Also, I don't know, what's the difference that it makes? How marginal is it? And, is it that? Is it the way hitters are, trying to approach the game? Is it the abundance of information and statistics that pitchers now have? And that's kind of developed faster than, the hitting side of the game. Or is it just because we're playing, in the spring and now we're hitting the summer, where the ball obviously is going to fly out faster in the summer, and, just the heat and all that stuff. I think it's probably a combination of all of that. But again, this is something that I think the MLB can stop the easiest, probably. I don't know. In that Sports Illustrated article, they talked about having basically a TSA system. It's like when you go into the bullpen that you're checking for these substances, which I don't know how, you can replicate that so quickly. And there's probably stuff you can get around that as well. But I don't know. It seems like, to have this 80% of the league using, basically breaking a rule, just like steroids. I mean, it's definitely something that, the MLB has to look into now, and it will make Manfred look really bad if it came out that, this was true, and that, 90% of the league was using, stick 'em basically.
I mean, look, it's hard for Manfred to look any worse than he does. I mean, He's a clown. Bud Selig was a clown for steroids. I mean, the commissioners of baseball do not have a great track record between being racist and all the different things. But, but we're going back to just focus on the topic at hand, though, with the substances. I mean, it's funny because, you always heard for a little bit that a lot of hitters actually didn't mind that pitchers used a little bit of, pine tar or whatever. To also, they talk about one of the things is sunscreen with, rosin that helps. Yeah. But they didn't mind it because it helped them control a fastball. So it wouldn't have a Kevin Pillar situation run up on someone's head and hit him in the face or whatever. But where the issue comes is the pitchers aren't really using it to, maybe that's outwardly what they're saying to their teammates, or their opponents. But what they're really doing is they're using it for their breaking balls to throw things that spin and move crazy, like it's a wiffle ball essentially. And you mentioned, Andrew, this idea of the pitchers are going to come out to the mound, the umpire is going to go up there and pat them down like it's TSA and pull the Vaseline out of their hat. And they're going to have pine tar in their back pocket. What are we doing here? I mean, that's just you either come. And also the thing is, they said, oh, well, if the guy comes up to the mound and he has a substance, we'll just ask him to change his hat or glove and then he can stay in the game. Well, what are we doing? I get that he can't use it now, but is that really a hard line? Also going to slow down the game by checking? I'm sorry. It should be if you show up like Michael Pineda and you have pine tar all over your neck, you're out of the game and you're done. We're not giving you a chance to get a towel and wash it off. It's absurd to me. And, MLB it's just so poorly run. Why do you have to do it? It's just a joke. I can't. It's just the way that they police themselves for years has always been pathetic. And this latest announcement about how they're going to deal with the foreign substances is just another example of why they are who they are.